It's looking back at your preliminary task, what do you think you have learnt in the progression from it to your main product? The first thing, the main thing that we've learned from our preliminary task to our final task is most definitely Premiere Pro and how to use that with editing, adding music, taking away like unwanted sounds, even stabilizing the video. For example, during our preliminary task, we were just given the task. We didn't know how to use the editing software, nor like the cameras. We didn't even know how to work together or even what locations to use. We just had to get it done in under an hour. Yeah, most importantly, the thing that we've learned is how to use Premiere Pro. For example, during our Love at First Cheat, we had to, well, our task was essentially create a like 5-minute video, but we couldn't edit it very well. I mean, the only thing we knew how to do was cut different like shoots and different scenes and stick them together. But now, not only can we do that, but we know how to take away, for example, the background noise, and we can add in music, or well, even if we wanted bird sounds, we can add that. Even in our main product, for example, we stabilized the video because it was a bit shaky, and well, we certainly didn't do that in our preliminary task, and a few of the shots weren't very well done. In comparison, our main product is way better. One thing we did really learn or understand from the very beginning, we realised our mistake when rewatching our preliminary, is that you have to choose a certain standard frame size, otherwise like the entire shot or the entire like product can be like really zoomed in. There's a shot where it's just my face when it was originally like a wide, just a close-up shot, or you can see the difference between the preliminary and the main product. We certainly knew how to use the spacing. I think one other thing we learned how to use on Premiere Pro was cropping shots and making them exactly where we wanted. So if you had an idea in your head, you could make it come to life. Whereas with preliminary, where we didn't really know at all how to use the editing software, we were just kind of thrown in it. We just thought, no, that will do, and that's the end. Looking back at our preliminary, I think we definitely know how to use cameras a lot more, how to set them up with the tripods, what buttons are what. You can see in the preliminary, all we've really done is click the start and the stop button, whereas with our main end opening product, we've zoomed in, and we also know how to use different shots with the camera, and we know how to focus a lot more. And I think that was like a really key thing. With the tripod, it was just like, we just kind of put it how it was given to us. And now we essentially know how to extend legs, make it slanted. If we want like a up above shot, we know how to do it. And I think that is one thing that really makes a difference between the preliminary and the main product. I think we really learned that research is key, because with our preliminary, we just used a location that was convenient to us. It was empty, it was open, it was available for us to use. And I think that was what let us have the decision of choosing that area. However, myself and Drew, for our opening, we actually went out and researched locations. We even looked online for like parks and stuff, and we found that we wanted to use the plantation garden or the secret garden. Although we didn't end up using it, we know that research is key. We went searching for good places. We went to Norwich and we walked around the city trying to find good locations that we thought would be appropriate for our opening. That meant, again, like almost too many locations, so we could have a variety to choose from when we actually went filming. And I think that's definitely something that is very important when filming, especially since in comparison to our preliminary, we just used a location that didn't even represent or reflect the situation that, well, our plot was in. It didn't even reflect the storyline. And there was a classroom next to us, so you could hear the background noise, and I really think that location is key in making a video, well, a product, and I think you can see the difference in the comparison, that in our opening main product, it's thought out and you can see that each location directly links with the character, and that is one of the major differences between our preliminary and our opening. Another thing that we've learned along the way from the very beginning of the year to now is how much you need to rely on your cast. You cannot choose the people who say are available during the time that you need them, or for example, for our preliminary, we only use someone who is an R3, and fortunately he was in my drama class so he could act, but it wasn't thought out. Whereas in contrast, our opening sequence, we actually auditioned members of the sixth form to try and cast the perfect character so it would really fit the description and they could act in the way that we wanted them, not because their acting skills were convenient for us at the time. From our preliminary, you can almost see that there isn't really much chemistry, or the two characters don't really know how to respond to each other, whereas in our opening you can see that that character is the character and not an actor. And I think that is one of the main things that we've learned from preliminary to now the opening sequence. I think there's a lot of important things, as I've said previously, that really add to making the opening, and those are things that we've had to learn the hard way. Lastly, the one thing that we have learned and that is consistent and that you definitely need in this entire process is that teamwork is so important. You have to be able to share the load of the entire work, and between Drew and I, we found that instead of giving individual jobs to each person and relying on the other person to do that job, you work together and half that. So instead, if you've got 4 jobs, let's say one person needs to film, one person needs to edit, one person needs to write these blog posts, one person needs to be in charge of casting, costume, etc. You can't just give individuals those jobs. Between us, we found it a lot quicker and a lot easier to both focus on the editing together, work on that together, both focus on the filming together, both need to sort out what you think is best for that character, what costume they'll need, who will be casted as that character, and write the process of it, plan it together, because then you will both be happy with the product and you will both have put the same amount of effort into one area, instead of, say, one person not putting much effort into the filming and then another person putting lots into the editing. And so we found that out at the beginning of the year. During the preliminary, we kind of just split up jobs. So, for example, Harry would be doing the filming. Personally, I was doing the editing. I think Drew was kind of flitting between the two, and we all attempted to do the blog posts together. Even in our Love Actually scene that we had to do, which was the next task after the preliminary, we split up the jobs. Again, Harry was in charge of camera work, Sophia was in charge of the editing, Rosie was in charge of casting, costume, and I was in charge of the blog posts. And I found out that if you want to be completely happy with your product, you have to share the load between you two. You really need the teamwork, you need to gel together. And I think that's something that both me and Drew learnt together, and that's what really helped with our opening sequence, because you can see that both of us have put in the same amount of effort, and if one of us didn't like something, we were able to discuss that with the other and change it so that the both of us were happy, instead of just relying on one person to do all the work in one area. Out of everything, I think the biggest thing that we did learn from our preliminary in comparison to the opening sequence was the teamwork, as well as how to use Premiere Pro, how to use the cameras, the tripod, the equipment, etc. Especially the research, casting, but even though those all hold some sort of priority and a really big importance, I think the biggest thing, the main thing that we have learnt is teamwork. And I think all those things put together is what makes the best outcome for our main product. From learning all those things, our opening is the best that we could have had it, and you can really see that in the difference between the preliminary and our main end product.